If you were to think about the perfect bike to go around the world with, this would probably be the first to spring to mind. While the original GS has had more than 40 years of updates and upgrades and redesigns, the Adventure version has only been around since 2002. Tailored to meet the requirements of long-distance travelers, it is usually better equipped, has a larger fuel tank, and is heavier. While this new model has received significant upgrades for the 2019 model, especially in the engine department, what I'm interested in is if it can still do what it promised 17 years ago, or if it has unfortunately been watered down to a Starbucks tourer. We would start with about 2-3 hours of highway riding, then do another 2-3 hours of express roads, and then end the day off with another 2 hours of off-road riding. I'm not interested in just listing the differences between the 2019 model and the previous models. I want to see this bike as a whole, because at the end of the day, that is what you're paying for, an entire package. You would be relying on this to give you something that is very difficult to find in day-to-day life. The spirit of adventure. Comfortable adventure. Get your motorbike news in a pleasant way. Hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next episode.
A lot of people actually use their 1200 or 1250 GSs for daily commuting, and I am one of them. Despite being a large bike compared to a naked bike or to a scooter, the GS does have a lot of features that actually help you a lot in city traffic.
The moment you start rolling off, you don't feel its weight at all anymore. It is extremely well balanced, and that makes it very easy to flick around corners or roundabouts, as that was. See? It looks like a great big tank. I'm sure if you had to pick it up, it will feel like a great big tank, but the moment you get it moving, it is extremely nimble. Yep, so as long as it's moving, it might as well be a 600cc bike to me. I would not know the difference. Unfortunately, lane splitting while you've got your boxes on, it's not something that is easy to pull off.
The fact that your mirrors are a lot higher than most other car mirrors helps you a lot during lane splitting. The hydraulic clutch and the hydraulic brakes make changing gears and stopping on a dime in city traffic very easy.
See, I know this is a great commuting bike because the 1200 Adventure is a great commuting bike, because I use that to get to work every day. Not a lot of traffic today, which is very good for us. We've got a long way to go. Quick shifter living up to its name, even in city traffic, shifting my gears quickly. Because the riding position is so high, one of the best advantages of that is that I can see straight over this car. If I'm so tall in traffic, in city traffic especially, I can see what's happening in front of the car that is in front of me, which from a safety point of view is very good.
Now, riding a motorcycle on the highway is boring. We all know that. Nobody has ever bought a motorcycle to see what it feels like to be a trucker, but a lot less comfortable. For a bike that is meant to take you around the world, the GS Adventure better be up to the task.
For highway riding, good wind protection is paramount. If your wind protection is not adequate, you're gonna get tired and you're gonna wanna get off the bike. The GS Adventure does come with a taller and wider windscreen and with some extra winglets, which definitely do help in regards with wind protection for highway riding, but all in all I do wish that the Adventure did have a little bit more wind protection.
Now I'm not feeling any wind on my chest or on most of my head, just a little bit on the top. But that's not a major concern. However, I am feeling it on my shoulders. My shoulders and my arms are completely unprotected. The seating position is very good. I'm not getting tired anytime soon. You could easily do 2-hour sprints of highway riding. No vibrations to really ride home about. There's nothing in my coming up from the seat to my butt. I don't feel any vibrations in my legs. It is the faintest vibration is coming through the handlebars, and I think that's normal with spoked wheels. If you're just gonna do on-road riding, then you can go for the cast wheels, and I think those you will not have a problem with vibrations in the handlebars.
Another great feature for highway riding is cruise control. Now this is one of those things that once you have it and you use it, if you ride a bike without it on a highway for long sprints, it is really something you do miss. So I'm very glad that it's there.
Windy back roads is where this bike is going to be spending most of its time. This is where the ability to be flung around corners and somehow feel 100 kilograms lighter while inspiring confidence is paramount.
The most notable change to the new 1250 is definitely the engine. If you were to read the spec sheet, the engine displacement was increased by 84 cubic centimeters, engine power went up by 9% and torque went up by 14%. However, the real story of the new engine lies in BMW's new shift cam system, which introduces variable timing to the Boxer. While the engine still features 4 valves per cylinder, the intake camshaft now has 2 sets of cam lobes. The partial load cam offers lower lift and helps to reduce fuel consumption, while the full load cam offers maximum lift and enhanced performance. The result, again, if you were just to read off the spec sheet, would be more power with better fuel economy and reduced emissions. However, what you cannot read off the spec sheet is that this engine has been completely transformed. Owning the 1200 GS myself, I could immediately feel the difference between the two, and it is huge. The 1250 is of course more powerful, you can feel that, but the power delivery is where it truly shines. I haven't felt a single jerk when pulling the throttle, whether I was riding in the city or on off-road. The power delivery is very well managed by the new engine, and it makes the 1200 Boxer engine feel prehistoric, sorry to say.
Now the seat is very comfortable. It's not the most comfortable seat, don't get me wrong on that. I have felt better seats for touring. Even BMW has some in its lineup, like on the K1600. But nonetheless, compared to other seats, it's very good. It does a very good job. Brakes are also an important component when you're riding on roads like these, especially in, let's call them, less fortunate countries like Romania, where riding a bike on the road you should expect absolutely anything. You should not have any surprises whatsoever, no matter what happens. Whether it's a horse-drawn carriage, whether somebody all of a sudden decides to stop in the middle of the road and turn the car around, or anything else. So I'm always riding with 2 fingers on the brake lever. That is all I need to do an emergency stop if something happens that I haven't foreseen and it catches me by surprise. The brakes have so much stopping power that, oh my god. See, that's what I meant. Surprises. That's why you should never ride so close to a car. What was I saying? The braking force of these brakes is absolutely phenomenal. I trust them so much. And one additional there's your rustic life. And one additional upgrade that BMW has made to their brakes on the GS, and that's for a couple of years now, is this thing they call ABS Pro, What that means is that no matter what angle you leaned at, if you need to suddenly brake, you don't need to worry about getting the bike straight up and then brake. You can brake even if you are leaned taking a corner, because the bike will take care that you're not going to start sliding all over the place. The front brake is also linked to the back brake, so when you apply the front brake, the bike does some magic calculation and also applies some back brake depending on how hard you're pulling the front one. This is obviously a very good thing, but there is one downside. You will very quickly get used to riding a bike without even touching the back brake. Come ride motorcycles in Romania, it's a lot of fun.
Another great feature on the bike is BMW's telelever and paralever suspension. Apart from doing its job very well as a suspension component on off-road and on-road, the electronically controlled telelever and paralever suspension also helps with braking. Because the bike's computer does all the necessary magic calculations, when you pull the brake lever, the bike will not dive. It does dive, but very little compared to your standard fork suspension. This makes everything a lot more stable while you're braking.
Ho ho ho!
Off-road capabilities is probably where 70% of BMW's marketing budget on this motorbike is spent on, while most GSs and even less adventures will feel the warm, embracing touch of an off-road. Let's see if BMW has kept its promise that we see in absolutely every single one of its adverts for this bike.
Like the 1200 GS, the 1250 is also equipped with different riding modes. For off-road riding, the Enduro mode transforms this beast into a tame but capable one, adjusting the throttle control so that any bumps from the uneven ground don't accidentally accelerate the bike, switching off the rear ABS and telling the throttle control to ease up a little and let you have a bit more fun, all at the push of a button. The electronic suspension also does wonders for bumpy terrain. I am able to ride sitting down with no problem on this kind of road. The windscreen is easily adjustable up and down with one hand for you to see more in front of the bike while riding in off-road conditions. Hill Climb Assist is a new feature where the bike will automatically apply the front brake if it senses you are stopped on an incline. You can have this in full auto mode, in manual mode where it engages if you pull the brake lever a little harder, or of course completely off. Keyless ride is not traditionally a feature that seems like it aids your off-road capabilities in any way, but it actually does. If you stop a lot, you at least don't have to worry where your key is when you are fully geared up and with your gloves on. Just keep the key safe in your pocket and never worry about it. This feature is obviously very helpful in city riding as well.
Now that we've arrived here after a long day of riding, there are a couple of difficult questions that we need to ask ourselves. Firstly is, what don't I like about the bike?
Firstly, and I know this is very nitpicky, is this. This has been driving me nuts for years. This is the same little tiny mouse hooter that has been around forever. And on such a monster of a bike, I don't understand why we don't get something else, something proper. Next is the bash plate. Now this has been enlarged a little bit, but nowhere near enough. All the aftermarket ones, all the proper ones are a lot beefier and protect the engine and the exhaust headers a lot better.
And secondly, should you upgrade to this new 2019 model if you already own a previous 1200 GS Adventure?
Now this is one of those yes and no questions. I've thought about this for quite a while and my answer is the following. If you already do own a 1200 GS that is anything before model year 2017, then in my opinion, yes, you should upgrade to the 1250 GS Adventure or the 1250 GS. The reason for that is the following. Starting with model year 2017, BMW changed the gearbox, and what they did was turn a very clunky, noisy, kind of difficult to operate gearbox into a very smooth and a very precise one. So if you're coming from a 2014 year, let's say GS, jumping to a 1250, the difference that you will feel will be quite substantial. If you however are coming from a 2018 1200 GS jumping into a 1250, The main benefit for you is gonna be the amazing new engine in the 1250, but most of the other stuff has been left exactly the same.
Mate, so who is actually the perfect customer for this 1250 GS Adventure? And why the Adventure and not the standard GS?
The Adventure is a perfect bike if you want to discover any kind of roads and even off-road. So I like the Adventure because of the longer suspension, the better wind and weather protection, and I like it because I can plan a ride and it doesn't matter what kind of roads you choose. In comparison to the normal GS, you have 10 liter plus, it means 30 liters of gasoline, and last but not least, the aluminium side cases and the top case, which are very convenient and very reliable off-road.
Now, usually any bike I review, I also like to take a little trip at night to see how the lights perform. And this being a long touring adventure bike, it is more important than ever for it to have proper lighting at night, because you might end up riding at night as well. This is just the standard light without the auxiliary lights on. The Adventure comes with auxiliary lights standard. This is the high beam light, which everything is already bright white. I can see everything. I'm not worried about not seeing something. I wouldn't go very fast at night anyway. And then with the auxiliary lights on, everything around the sides becomes very well lit up as well. And then one last thing I like to check for night riding is if the dash, whether that be a screen or standard dials, it usually has lights on. I like to see if that is bothering to my eyes while I'm riding at night. The screen is bright enough for me to see all the info on it, but not bright enough for it to be distracting. So I would have no problem riding this bike at night. Obviously not very fast, because you can't see absolutely everything, but faster than most bikes. LED lights are the future, and I'm glad they're on this bike already.
We've spent about 6 to 7 hours in the saddle today. We've arrived in places that otherwise I would have never gotten here. Even if some of them could be accessible with a car, I would never actually take a car where I will take this bike. The ride has been comfortable. I have had a lot of fun doing this today. So all in all, after 17 years, the bike still stays true to its name. It is a proper all-day off-road and on-road adventure motorcycle. So in conclusion, don't be fooled. The new 1250 GS Adventure might look the same as the previous 1200, but deep inside lies a new beast. The new shift cam engine has completely revitalized this motorcycle, and it's now more fun than ever whether you ride it off-road or on-road. Even though you'll probably never go around the world with this motorcycle, it's always good to know that you could, if you wanted to. The king is dead. Long live the king!
Well, that's the show, everybody. If you've enjoyed it, give it a big thumbs up. If you just liked it, then a smaller thumbs up. And if you think you've learned something new, consider subscribing or becoming a Patreon to help us make more of these shows. Cheers, and I'll see you on the next one.